Yeah, we got a special guest in the building. We got our guy, Mike Howard, the creator of the Sport of Reporting, Part One. We got him in queue, so we'll bring him on right now.
What's
What's
going
going on,
on?
Mike?
Hey, what's going on? Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I'm excited.
No,
Thank you.
no problem. Now you're on the other side of you're on the other side of the field now.
I know.
Yeah.
You can put me in the hot seat.
Absolutely,
Right.
absolutely. And man, definitely shout out to you, man. Got a great project coming up. Tell everybody, part one of the sport of reporting. What can we expect?
Right. So I produced and directed a three-part film called The Sport of Reporting Part One. It's a three-part film. And the main reason why I created this project was I'm a huge sports fan. I watch Fox, I watch ESPN, NBA TV, I watch CBS Sports, I watch First Take religiously. And as a sports fan, we are so fortunate to see great sports journalists interviewing our favorite players, teams, coaches, GMs, but we hardly ever see them being interviewed. And we hardly ever see them being on the hot seat and really answering questions. We see them interviewing our favorite athletes, but we don't see them being interviewed. So I host and produce my own local talk show called Mike Nice Talking the Talk in the state of Connecticut. And back in 2016, I was fortunate to interview Molly Kerm, the moderator for First Take. And this is way before I thought about the sport of reporting. And then a year later, I got a chance to interview Stephen A. Smith. And then maybe 4 or 5 months later, I interviewed Chris Berman. And it was the interview I did with Chris Berman. After the interview, I was like, listen, I got Stephen, I got Molly, I got Chris Berman. Let's see how many more of these sports journalists, analysts I could get. So I sent out a mass email to a lot of today's top sports journalists, hosts, reporters. Some got back to me. Some emails are still pending. And with the people who got back to me, I was fortunate to make this film.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know, and actually, looked at the YouTube as well, and you've interviewed over 20 plus journalists. So I know you did mention Stephen A, Molly, and all. What other ones for our listeners? Other journalists have you interviewed?
Yep. So I have interviewed Stephen A. Smith. I have interviewed Skip Bayless, Molly Kerm. I have interviewed Chris Berman, the legendary Chris Berman, Chris Broussard, Rob Parker, Sarah Spain. Who else? I'm freezing up. And Lisa Sauters, Carrie Champion. And then that's all I can remember right now. That's a shame. I should have a list. But I interviewed 22 people. And in part one, only 7 are going to be in part one. So I entered a contest where people now are going on my YouTube channel. And if you can guess the 7 correct people who you think is going to be in part one, you will win a $500 Visa gift card. And you can submit your answers as many times as you want. The deadline is April 26, 7 p.m. So for instance, you can enter Stephen A. Smith, Skip Bayless, Molly, Chris Broussard, Carrie Champion, and 2 other people. And then you can resubmit another 7. You could submit at the same time. Long as you get the 7 right, you have to get all 7 right. So it's like a lottery, So it's a raffle. So that's one thing to hopefully engage viewers, your listeners, to kind of like watch the film, is to kind of enter in a contest and see how many 7 people who you think that's going to be in part one. So
absolutely, yeah. And one of the interviews and that I'm, well, first before we dive into that, who are, like, as far as your influencers, like, when you were coming up, who were the ones that when you look at that influence you and for your love of broadcasting and love of sports?
Yeah. So I grew up in a foster care home, and my first talk show host I ever saw was Sally Jesse Raphael. She was an older white lady with this orange bright hair and the stylish glasses. She was the number one talk show host I saw. And I remember I was in a foster care home. I was in the crib, and I kid you not, I pointed to the TV and I was saying to myself, that's what I want to do. Like, it was something about her demeanor, her, persuasion in front of the camera, how she talked to her audience. And I was like, That's what I want to do. So she was the first person. I mean, right now, if I say the best interviewer, in my opinion, the best interviewer all time, you got to go with the Queen of Oprah. Like, she's the best. When you think of interviewer, I mean, Oprah is the first person that comes to my mind, and it comes to a lot of people's mind. So I always say I want to be one of the greatest interviewers / producers, because I produce all my shows, and I have hosted and produced my show since my senior year in high school. So last March, I just had my 15-year anniversary. So I produce every single interview. Thank you. I produce every single interview, and then I execute by doing the interview. So Oprah is my number one idol. Like, if I want to be on her level, hopefully. So that's what I'm striving to be, which is impossible, but it's fun. It's fun just to try.
Right.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. Trust me, it'll happen.
Right.
You just need a few little degrees. I think you're a few degrees away as far as separation from Oprah. You about halfway there.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you got the Stephen A. angle. Maybe he can talk to Gail. I mean, I'm telling you, like we say this, but you are a few degrees away from Oprah now.
Right.
I didn't want to say this, but since you said that, part 3, not gonna lie, part 3. For your listeners, is called The Sporter Reporting Legends Only. That's the title for part 3, which is coming out in a couple of years. I have Oprah in that already.
Right. I think it's genius, man. I think me, growing up in like the late 90s, early 2000s, I wake up and watch Jerry Springer, and then I will watch sports all day. And that's I was about 18 or 19, and I think the generation changed around that time. So you're actually showing the evolution of sports by doing this film, and I think it's genius, man. I'll subscribe today, and I'm definitely going to share. For me, my favorite interviewer was Arsenio Hall. Yeah. So for me, I want to get a little, if I can get just a tad bit deeper. Where were you born from, and what inspired you, and what made you want to even do interviews, to produce and direct?
Absolutely. So, like I said, I was born in Providence, Rhode Island, and I grew up in 4 different kind of foster care homes, and I got separated from my biological family and stuff like that. And like I said, Sally Jesse Raphael was the first person who I saw. But when I was adopted, like, I always wanted to be in the NBA. I just thought because my name was Michael and I was Black, I could be in the NBA. So my goal was to make it into NBA. But even then, I was like, after I retire from the NBA, I'm going to have my own talk show. So I always had that in the back of my mind. And then in middle school, I learned how to use the edit software, and I was one of the morning announcements. And that really became the passion. I was like, oh, I'm good at this. Like, I love to be in front of the cameras. I love to, do segment stories. And then my senior year in high school, I was like, listen, it was a sports school. I was known for football. And I was like an average student. And I was like, I want to graduate being on top. I want people to know me for this, not from football, not from sports, like, because I wasn't a big sports guy at the time. So I went down to my local Citizens Television, and I learned how to use the equipment. And I don't know, each state is different, but CTV, Citizens Television, everything is free. The cameras, the studio, the equipment, everything is free, and there's no time limit. Like, there's people who have worked on it for months. There's people who worked on it for years. Like, it's all your own schedule. So my beginning of my senior year, my goal, my mentality was, I have to have a talk show before I graduate. Like, I need to have my first show before I graduate. So my first show was March 26, 2006, my very first show. And I had classmates on. I had my history teacher on. And we talked about everything and anything. It wasn't organized. It was horrible. I remember I locked my suit in my mother's car, and I had to wear like a hoodie. And I had to wear these nasty yellow sweats because it was a live show. So I had to go on live. And from there, I really have been fortunate and lucky and blossom and interview some of my local politicians, my mayor. I had Charlamagne God. He was on my show. I was the last person to interview Maya Angelou 2 weeks before she died. So, my whole mentality, to be honest, is I want to be the very best. And my whole mentality is I feel like I could interview anybody I put my mind to. Like, if I put my mind to it, I will interview you, like, for sure. Some take longer than others, but like I'm gonna interview you, whether it takes 3 months to a couple of years to a few days. Like I will interview you. So that's my whole mentality for the past 15 years.
Man,
Yeah,
congratulations.
absolutely.
Seriously.
Yeah, and it's funny that you brought up, and when we talk about influencers, you talk about Sally Jess Raphael. Surprisingly, one of my influencers you interview, and you actually alluded to it earlier, Charlamagne Tha God. So how was that? How was interviewing him?
Man, Charlamagne, that was a great interview. He was in New York and he did a book signing. So after the book signing, because I talked to his publicist for like a past year, and just to give you like all your listeners just advice, like in anything in life, you have to be persistent. Like anything, if you want to be a great barber, if you want to be a great cook, if you want to be a great interviewer, anything. So especially if you want to be a great interviewer, people like you and I, we're not household names. So if you really, really wanted somebody to be on your podcast, if you really want to interview somebody, you have to be persistent. And my whole philosophy is, how many no's are you willing to go through just to get that one yes? Just how many no's? And then how many more no's are you willing to go through just to get another yes? Some people are just satisfied with one yes and call it quits. And then some people are like, all right, I got 100 no's, I got one yes. Let's go for more no's. Let me get more no's so I can get that yes. So that's my mentality. So I emailed Charlamagne Tha God publicist over a year ago before I interviewed him. And we got the timing was right. He was in Brooklyn. He did a book signing, and he was like down to earth, down to earth. And we talked a lot about sports. We talked about the whole Birdman situation, and it was just it was down to earth. And even the Stephen Ace interview, when you watch it, you're going to see kind of a different perspective of who he is opposed to what we see him on TV. When we see him on TV, we see him outspoken, creative, loud. The interview I did, totally different, right?
Totally
so
different.
That's one of the reasons why I did the project, because you're going to see a different side of all these sports journalists that we normally see. So Charlamagne was a good interview, to answer your question. And we talked about various of things, and like I said, it took over a year to get him. I had to keep emailing his publicist, but it was worth it. At the end of the day, my whole thing is I rather interview somebody who's important than take a selfie. Like everybody's society is so up with selfies. Like if I had a chance to interview Obama or take a selfie with him, I'm going to interview Obama. Like I'm going to forget the selfie, because number one, it's your show. So how many people can say, "Oh, I interview Obama"? More people can say I took a selfie with Obama than actually say I interview Obama. So that's my whole mentality. Like I want to interview. Forget the picture. Forget the selfie. I want to interview you because it's my show.
Right. I want to have a conversation. You know what I mean? Like,
I want to talk to you. Yeah, I don't. Hey, why I interview you? Someone get in the back already take the picture of us talking. I don't want this. You can take a picture when I'm interviewing you.
Right.
Right. And I'm glad you brought that up, because essentially what that basically does, that's something that you're going to forever, that's going to be an indelible mark. The selfie might be gone, as far as just technology, whatever. Right. So, and it kind of leads to my next point, where do you have any like favorite moments as far as, during this development of this project?
Oh man, my favorite moments, to be honest, was each interview. People always tell me, Michael, what's your favorite interview? Is it, Dr. Maya Angelou? Is it Charlamagne? Is it Stephen A. Smith? Is it Carey? Is it Russell Simmons? Is it blah, blah, blah? And I always tell people my favorite interview is the next one, is the very next one. That's my favorite interview. And, I was fortunate to get a lot of these sports icons that we see on TV. So I think each interview was unique in its own way. And I always tell people, like, I first of all, this project has never been done. Like when I say never been done, I'm talking about a person like you or me, or someone out there who's watching, to get a collective of these sports journalists, sit down, do an interview, and then combine it and make it into a film. This has never been done. So in that aspect, it's really unique, right? So, I always say that, like, I have the Avengers of sports reporting in this project. And I consider myself, I always tell people, well, who do you think I am? If I consider this the Avengers of sports reporting, and people say, oh, you're Iron Man because you're the first, or you're Black Panther. Nope, I consider myself Thanos. And I consider myself, every interview is a stone because it was hard to get. So
and like, you know, since the pandemic, the growth of podcasts and have jumped. And I'm gonna tell you, man, what I'm hearing and what you did, like, and us subscribing, like a lot of these dudes that's gonna jump into it, they're necessarily they would see your film and get to see all these different, even some people they might not even know of. You know what I mean?
I hope so.
You put in there, and each part one, and then they would like, so they asked me, I would say, hey man, go see Mike Howard's sports reporting, and you would get to see different people, and you get to see like what they say and what they did to get to a point. You know what I mean? I think it's great, man. Congratulations to you. Like seriously.
No, I appreciate it. I really do appreciate that. It means a lot.
No, seriously.
And the one I'm very curious, and I'm hoping this is in part one, the Adam Zucker interview.
Okay.
Because it looked like we were diving into a lot of social issues that we are dealing with present day.
Yeah,
so part of me, I don't know if I'm, as far as giving teasers, but I'm very. That's one thing I'm looking forward to, that Adam Zucker interview from CBS Sports.
I will say this. I can't say if it's going to be part one, but I will say this. Adam Zucker was probably the most chill one I interviewed out of all of them, even out of Steven. Like Adam Zucker, he was really chilled, really down to earth. It was my camera guy. We came in and he was like, originally he was like, you have 20 minutes, like in the email. And then when we got there, he was like, oh, take as much time as you want. So we spent doing like maybe a 35, maybe a 40-minute interview. And like you said, we like in one of the trailers, you hear him talk about Colin Kaepernick nailing down. And what does that mean for sports? Like I would say he was the most down to earth one. So yeah, definitely. So definitely you got to check those trailers out. I can't say if he's going to be part one, but you can, you can enter the contest and put his name down. You never know. He may be part one.
So look, I tried, because
that was a good try.
We tried over there. We tried to, hook a little bit in and didn't get much out of that. But yeah. So, what was like when you think about what was like the biggest lesson learned with these the interview process with these journalists and just personalities that you've interviewed?
I don't know. I think the biggest lesson, and I hate to sound like redundant, but like the biggest lesson was just to be persistent, because there's 22 people who I've interviewed. There's people from ESPN, Fox Sports, CBS, NBA TV. But majority of the people are from ESPN. I'm not gonna lie. I would probably say maybe a good 70% are from ESPN. So it was a point where I call ESPN. Like I don't have connections. Like when people say, "Oh, I got connections," I'm like, no, I don't. I call ESPN. I look it up from the from Google, literally Google, or ESPN. There is an ESPN in Connecticut, and I'm from Connecticut. And I call and I say, hey, can you please, connect me to so-and-so? So after maybe like 7 months in the project, I would call ESPN and they already knew who I was. And they were like, who do you want to interview next? Oh, really? And it was like, well, you're calling the interview, right? For your project. I'm like, yeah. So it got to a point where like they kind of knew me, and like some of them needed permission, I guess, from the network. And some of them, I'm not snitching or anything, but I guess some of them, they didn't get permission, but they just like, hey, we want to help you out. So they did the project without the permission. But the ones who needed permission, they said, oh yeah, we asked ESPN, we asked the producers, and they already know. They said, yeah, you can do it. We could do the interview with you. You're fine. So I mean, I was great to know like this, being persistent. That was like, because at one point, like I said, there's like, Mike, who do you want to interview next? And I was like, really? And I was like, yeah. There was like, yeah, if they're willing to do the interview with you, sure, interview them. I was like, okay. So what I learned was just being persistent and really just going about it. And like, this is my dream. And like, I always say you're only naturally good if you naturally put it into work, Right. So you just have to put in that work. And I like being the underdog, or maybe underdog is the wrong word, but I like kind of not being a household name, because when I contact whoever I want to contact to interview, I give them my history. I let them know who I interview. I let them know how many years I've been doing this. I let them know that this is not a joke. This is what I do, right? And then that itself, I think, will make me stand out from maybe somebody who else is a household name. Like, I want to be one of the greatest producers / interview. And when it's all said and done, I want to do it my way. And I want to say, you know what? I ain't have any sponsors. I did it old-fashioned, called, connect. I emailed, I text. I did what I had to do to interview you. So that's my MO. That's what motivates me right now. Like, just seeing if I could keep on doing it kind of as the underdog.
Yeah. Yes, sir. That definitely, you're right. You're right on the money about that. And like you said, to stay persistent and just keep grinding. Like, I'm like, get out the mud, because that's what the really prevailing theme about that. Just get out the mud and just do what you got to do. But yeah, definitely appreciate you for coming on, Mike.
Man, I appreciate you guys.
Yeah. So tell them where they can find this project.
Yep. So you could go on my YouTube. So my project is going to air live stream April 26th, 7 p.m. Eastern time on my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is The Sport of Reporting Part 1, the number 1. So all one word, The Sport of Reporting Part 1. I have my last trailer going to drop next Monday, and it's going to be live streaming. It's going to be the final trailer. It's going to reveal a lot more people in this one, and it's going to kind of show you a storyline of what you can expect in Part 1. And definitely, to all your listeners and viewers, please subscribe. If you don't subscribe, that's fine, but long as you watch April 26th, my goal, my dream is to hopefully get 500 viewers for that night. If I could get 500 viewers for that live stream, I would be the happiest man in the world. Like, and people, and even to a lot of people, they're like, oh, that's not a lot. But like, for me, for a live stream, that would be happy. So please, your listeners, your viewers, you can go on my YouTube channel, check out my trailers, enter to win the $500 gift card. And the one thing that you could also expect in this film, I'm a huge fan of Michael Jordan. Actually, I told you in the beginning, I was adopted, and my name was actually Cody. And then when I was adopted, my mother said, do you want to change your name? I said, yes. And it's like, who do you want to change your name to? I said, Michael Jordan. But the second favorite player in my opinion, like on the same level as Michael Jordan, is the late, great Kobe Bryant. And in the beginning of this, in the opening scene, I did a beautiful tribute to Kobe and his daughter and his family. Wow. So for all the Kobe fans, for all the Bryant fans out there, you can expect the opening scene. I did like a 2-minute tribute. I did a message. I actually created a picture that's never done before of his daughter and him walking into a phone booth and then coming out as superheroes. So wow. It's a beautiful tribute. So you can expect in the opening scene a tribute for the late great Kobe Bryant and his daughter. And like I said, go on my YouTube channel, The Sport of Reporting Part 1. Please subscribe, enter the contest, watch the trailers. And like I said, my last trailer drops next Monday, my final trailer. And then the following Monday is the big day.
Yes, indeed. We're definitely looking forward to that. And we'll put the link up. And like you said, man, you can get that 500 because determination you can get that 500.
I hope. I really know. It's hard. It's harder than what people think.
I know. You're gonna get there.
I hope so. Trust me. And I want to say to you guys, keep doing what you're doing. Like, keep doing your podcast. Like, when you do, like you said in the beginning of the pandemic, people are opening with the podcast, and which is great. I love it. And then I always say this, and I tell this to my friends who also have podcasts. In another 5-6 years, when this whole pandemic is over, if you're really into this, the ones who are really dedicated, you're going to see them still have it and still evolve. And then the people who are just doing it because they're bored, they're going to shut down. So that's when you're going to really see the real podcasts from like the not so real podcast. So I want to tell you both, keep doing what you're doing. Don't change your podcast for anybody. whatever method you guys have, then you do you. Don't say, when people say, oh, well, somebody else is funny, that's cool. That's their show. This is my show.
Right.
It's your podcast. So do you. Don't change for anybody. Do you.
Yes, sir. Already. Yes, sir. Yes, indeed. Yeah, man. Right. Yes, sir. Appreciate you, Mike, and definitely looking forward to it, man. We can catch you.
Proud of you, man. Proud of you, bro.
Thank you. April 26th.
April 26th. 13 more days, man. Check out the Sport of Reporting Part 1.
Yes.
My guy, Mike Howard, man. And hey, come on back one of these days, man. We'll chop it back up.
Yes, sir. Right. Thank you both. Yes, you guys be safe. Be safe. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Man, great.
Yeah.
Bro.
Yeah.